So you would have 8 acre lot, right?
Yeah.
Read it all.
Okay, like to call the meeting to order. First up is the update agenda. Anything to add? Public comment? Anybody have anything? No? So I guess we go to the Basil Hill Road Solar Project. That's, I think you said Jeff?
Jeff.
Yeah. Martha.
I'm not sure how you would like us to do this. We can give a presentation similar to what we did with the select board and run through, based upon the advance notice that we filed. We could go through the letter from the planning commission.
Is that new? The letter?
No, you
Oh.
folks sent it to us on
Okay.
on June 17th.
Okay, well, I think you should go because I haven't heard it.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll just sort of start from the top. So my name is Martha Staskis, and with me is Jeff Martin. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Norwich Solar. Jeff is a project manager, works with me. I've been doing renewable energy development in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, New York for too long, about 25, 30 years. Norwich Solar is primarily a vertically integrated solar development, installation, and operations and management company. We also have an EV, electric vehicle division, and we're located primarily out of White River Junction. Most of us live in Vermont, a few in New Hampshire. And as I said, we're doing projects in northern New England. We were founded in 2011 out of Norwich, Vermont, and did primarily residential installation. And as requests came in for further larger projects, we started to look more focused on utility size projects. The size of project that we're looking at here is a 2 megawatt project, which is will take up about 9.5 acres of land physically. Let's see, I'm jumping around here. So the process, the site that we have been looking at was, we were reached out by the landowner who is looking for additional revenue to pay his taxes, quite honestly. He has since sold the farmhouse itself. He owns several hundred acres, and he sold the farmhouse at the bottom of the hill at the intersection of Basil Hill. And he is looking for additional revenue streams for pay his taxes. We originally looked at this site and started talking with Vermont Electric Co-op, who is interested in securing the power from the site. And based upon some early interconnection studies, have found that the project as originally considered has been cut in more than half. It was originally proposed to be, or looked at to be, about 5 megawatts, and now it's 2 megawatts, and that is to address the capacity that's available on the system. I guess we should.
I have a question. Can I jump in anytime or?
This is her meeting. You guys tell us what, we're here to answer questions, and we're also here to,
If it's right at that moment, I think you should probably do it.
What's that?
If the question pertains to what she was just talking about.
How are you gonna get the power from the solar panels to the main road?
right, down Basil Hill.
What part of Basil? Like right down the main road?
Right,
Right across your property, right across your property.
Yeah, it would have.
So I'm just wondering, because I own a bunch of property on the other side of the road.
down by the 105.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the way to Basil Hill.
Yeah,
all the
Yeah.
way up.
In the woods there.
Yeah.
It would go in the right of way of the town that DEC already has a power line. It would be upgrading the single phase line that's there.
there isn't a line there yet. It stops at one of my properties.
But that's what DEC is actually studying it right now. I don't have the results of that study.
We would like to know what the size of the transmission lines are, the height of the poles.
They're very similar to, well, the poles that are along 105 actually have a transmission versus distribution on top. And so it would be the height of the distribution poles is what VEC will require. VEC calls all the shots in terms of from the transformer at the site of the array all the way out to
And
the
what is the height of that?
approximate. My guess is it's 45 feet is typically what a distribution pole is.
That's a huge pole, a huge pole.
What's there now
Is there a
There's no,
way?
there's no 45 footers there now.
on 105, on Route 105?
But not on Basil Hill. And you're saying you're going to put 45-foot utility poles on Basil Hill down that dirt road across Bucky's land. Now you say that Bucky's land, yes, it's in the easement for the right of way, but it's still going across his land. It's still going right in front of his house.
Yeah. It definitely is.
Yeah.
Is there a way, if this goes through, that you can do underground?
Well, there's always a way, right? You have to talk with the utility. And that portion, once it leaves the transformer at the array footprint, that's VEC equipment. It's VEC owned, it's VEC regulated, it's VEC designed. The project just pays for it.
Yeah, but
So-
they would not be putting in their poles if you weren't putting in your solar system.
I'm sorry, if I could just finish?
I thought you were done. I'm sorry, I heard a pause.
I don't know how you want me to do this, but from the transformer at the array footprint, the utility owns all the infrastructure. From that point, it's their system. Does that make
So
sense?
who would we have to talk to make sure? I mean, there's no power poles there yet. I mean, Becky and Alan lived the farthest there without power because they didn't want to put poles in,
Right.
just to ruin the whole scenery.
So as part of the application to the Public Utility Commission, there is a feasibility study that the utility has to complete and has to get submitted. And that would include that information, which, as I said, we don't have yet. They haven't completed it. They issued an RFP for a company to study it, and we don't have it back yet.
All right,
But
may I ask a
my
question?
guess is, excuse me, my assumption is that yes, from the line on 105, the idea was, the concept is that from the line on 105, it would run up Basil Hill Road in the right of way along adjacent to the side of the road up to the array. It would be a three-phase pole, which is typical to what you see with the one pole with a cross arm on it. And it has three wires on the top. It's not a transmission line.
Well, I'm just trying to figure, I mean, that means the power is gonna go right over one of my barns.
Your barn's not in the town right away, is it?
Yes,
Then,
it's been there forever.
right. Well, that's what we have to talk to VEC with.
Right. Yeah, I think we should definitely. because we gotta
Which
go
is your
through it.
property?
As soon as you go to Basil Hill,
It's on the corner of,
No.
oh,
so it's Fred's farmhouse,
yeah,
from the farmhouse up. We own the mobile home on the other side, and then it goes all the way up to where you guys are putting the solar panels there.
on Basil Hill.
Yes,
Everything on the right-hand side of the road going up Basil
everything
Hill
on the right side.
past the farmhouse.
And you bought that from Fred?
Yep.
Okay.
And Bucky, you didn't buy that land knowing that there was going to be 45-foot utility poles put on your property. And you can say
Right.
they're not transmission lines, but what kind of lines are they if they're transmitting the power?
The distribution line.
Okay, well, they're distribution lines. You didn't buy the property knowing there's going to be distribution lines running across your property.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
can I ask a question, please? In regards to the town's right of way, I hear you keep mentioning that. Have you got permission from the town to use that right of way?
The utility would be the owner of the utility poles in the town right away.
Has the utility sought permission from the town to do that?
There's no application. There's no application yet.
Well, before you go much further, I'd suggest, because if the select board says no, there's no point in much going further with your property, or you'd have to get a right of way across Fred's.
Or, right away
So
across
let
my
me ask a
property.
further question. What work would you do to lay the line in the right of way to put these poles? Would you be cutting trees along that right of way?
The utility, Vermont Electric Co-op has specifications for installation of a three-phase line. It's typically 12 feet outside the cross arm on either side. So they would install or upgrade and improve the line as it is along the road.
That's a class, isn't it a class 4 road?
That's a trick.
Beyond,
What is the right of way on a class 4 trail?
It's not a trail there, it's a class 4 road.
Or
The
class
right of
4.
ways, the right of way is probably 50 feet, but I couldn't.
And they
confirm
have
that
the
for
right to
sure.
cut down 50 foot of trees.
No,
they
they
have
don't
the
have a
right to
right
do
to
that.
cut, they don't have a right to cut
That's-
anything down
no,
unless the select
no,
board says they
that's
can.
not, that's right.
Right.
I don't know where to go back to.
Do you want to finish everything you've got to say before jumping into?
Yeah, I guess what I was hoping to be able to do was, as part of the state permitting process for solar development, the Public Utility Commission requires notice to the neighbors and the Select Board, the Planning Commission, the Regional Commission, all the state agencies with respect to the department, I shouldn't say all the state agencies, the Department of Public Service, the Agency of Natural Resources, the Division of Historic Preservation, the Natural Resource Board, if there's an Act 250 permit associated to the parcel. Also the utility, Vermont Electric Co-op in this case. And the letter is required to highlight specific criteria. However, from our perspective, we just feel that there's much more information to be able to share. So, and we saw that in the responses that you folks that wrote to us and said, had expressed your concerns. Some of the concerns, I would say, are addressed by the state agencies. For example, the agricultural criteria, the Agency of Agriculture, Farm and Markets has very specific requirements and decommissioning requirements for an installation of solar on prime ag soils. And those have to be followed. The Agency of Natural Resources has their wetland program, their fish and wildlife program, all look at the specific environmental criteria that falls under their purview. So the idea that we had a biologist go out and delineate any potential wetlands that were on the site, that has to go through the wetland program. They have to agree with what our biologist found. And then there's criteria for avoiding class 2 wetlands. Class 3 wetlands, they don't regulate. So, and there is an impact on one class 3 wetland. The agency, or the Fish and Wildlife Department will look at large game, small game. They look at, there's a natural heritage program that we have to do a rare, threatened and endangered plant and animal species survey. So our biologists, our botanists have gone out and walked the site to see if there's any rare plants. There's been no indication about rare animals, listed animals that are using the area. As I mentioned, we have to do these electrical interconnection studies with Vermont Electric Co-op. And so before the project can even go into the Public Utility Commission, The utility has to make a positive finding, or doesn't have to, they can say no, but they have to review the project in terms of the ability for the project to be interconnected safely and reliably into their system. The Division of Historic Preservation also comments on the project as whether there's any historical districts or resources in the area that the project could potentially impact. What am I forgetting?
Stormwater.
Stormwater, okay. As part of the Agency of Natural Resources, the Stormwater Program, which is under the Department of Environmental Conservation, the project will have to get a stormwater permit. And that is for the construction phase of the project, so that all the stormwater, potential stormwater, erosion control plans have to be put into place, and that all has to be contained. Any kind of ground disturbance within what we call the limit of disturbance. That's the larger 19-acre area. That all potential water impacts, erosion control has to be contained within that area. So during the construction phase, there would be erosion control measures implemented. That's typically can be hay bale or grindings, silt fence, things like that. After the construction is complete, and honestly, on a 5-acre basis, any ground disturbance has to be controlled, and we won't be able to disturb more than 5 acres at a time, and they'll come in and seed and mulch the area that they finished so they can go on and do the next phase, if you will. The limit of to talk about the difference of the 9.5 acres for the solar array versus the 19 acres for the limit of disturbance. The limit of disturbance is we have to identify to the stormwater program, the Department of Environmental Conservation, any potential impact or ground disturbance during construction. And so honestly, we don't know where the guy is going to park his car when the worker comes to work on the array. We know that we're going to want to cut some trees to prevent shading of the array. If we're there to generate electricity from the sun, we don't want trees to block it. So there is an area outside of the footprint that is for shade management and also temporary staging of the installation. And once the array is put in, then the whole area is basically managed as a meadow. We would come, access to the array is, maybe twice a year to mow. With the project is monitored remotely. And so we can tell when there's a panel that goes down for some reason, or, really, there's not a lot of moving parts, so you don't have a lot of mechanical problems. But the project would have an annual inspection for just tightening wires and making sure everything looks good. There would be a site visit to mow the ground around it. We have some projects where we graze sheep around it, so we don't have to mow. So that would be the limit of disturbance is sort of a temporary situation. It's for the period of installation. And once it's operational, then it becomes a smaller maintained area. And the smaller maintained area will have a fence around it, the array itself. Yeah, sir.
Seems like all I'm hearing is what's gonna happen while they're putting the solar things in.
Yep.
What happens to all of the erosion after they're in? And you got heavy rains like we've been getting here in the last 3 years. You can't tell me that there's not gonna be a lot of water running off in those panels.
There's no more water than if it just falls into the ground.
Though it is, because it's gonna be falling off the end of those panels on the ground in a row. I don't know how long those rows are gonna be and how many you're gonna have.
Yep. And
So
then
I'm wondering, everything the whole thing slopes toward the road,
Yep.
no matter where you are. It comes toward the road, toward my house. And from where the apple orchard is, anything there comes to the road. Anything that going down the other way toward the farm, that's all headed toward the road.
Yeah. You're west. Where's your
I'm
house?
Alan Ashman. I'm the house in the field, the tan colored house that sits in the field.
Around the corner. Okay. Past the,
915 feet, I think it says, from
Yeah.
the nearest residence.
Yeah.
Don't you have restrictions on how close, respectable restrictions on how close you should be to a home? I mean, I've read that you should be like 2 miles away from the friggin' solar.
the state of Vermont regulates property boundaries and roads is what the setbacks are.
Through the construction, with all the equipment going up, the road's gonna take a toll on it. We've been taking care of the road.
No, we have to take care of the road. The road, and we told the select board this, the road would be maintained in as good or better condition than it is now.
And who would plow that road in the wintertime?
We don't have to get to it, so we don't need to.
I do.
That's
Me and Billy plowed.
You may
I
have to get
plowed
to
it
it.
for 20 years. And I know if you cut a bunch of trees, it's gonna make it a lot harder to plow.
They're a natural barrier.
Because right now, the trees are holding a lot of the snow from blowing into the road. Those trees are all gone, then it's gonna be hell.
The trees on the northern
They
side
won't
of,
have to deal with it. They will have to.
Yeah.
can I answer? The trees on the northern side of the project, there's no plans to cut trees on the northern side of the project, which the array faces south away from the road. So.
Yes, that's where I got panels and that's where mine face too. But I'm just saying that any of the trees along the road that are, need to be cut are gonna make it
Yeah.
hard to
All,
plow the road.
right, that's east. Most of our storms come from the west. Where do yours come from? Mine come,
All over
The wind,
place.
the wind
Yeah.
blows like crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I
Crazy.
I know, I looked for wind sites up here years ago. I believe you. Yeah, I think, the point here is we're not looking to be a bad neighbor. We're not looking to make problems. The reason to hear these concerns are so that we can address them as part of the project. So, our guy being a participant in plowing, that's definitely, we can either contribute to your costs or we can find someone to help plow. I mean, I've done that at other projects. We're not here to disrupt everything. We're here to try to bring renewable energy to this.
Sounds like
region
you're
of the
gonna
state.
erupt everything that's up there because the apple trees will be gone. Those apple trees been there forever.
Maples.
The whole apple orchard be gone, according to their map.
Your map also shows where you take the corner onto the county road. It looks like you're gonna take trees down there, the big old maple trees.
Yeah, where's the?
Because you've got,
Right here. They're gonna end here.
Off-
and they're gonna
if
clear all
you're
the way
going
around
around the
Dogwood.
corner right onto the county road. You're off of
That'd be the
Basil
nice
Hill at that point.
Yeah,
So, and that's historical. It's beautiful. It's recreational. It's rural.
That's in plain sight, crowds.
Yeah, that's going toward.
well, I don't know. I
anything-
mean, look at the topography there as well. I mean,
No.
it slopes up and that road on County Road is probably 10 feet lower than the height of the land, the base elevation of the land, right?
So can I speak now? Is it okay?
Sure.
to speak? Okay, so I want to be nice to you. I'm Robert Simpson. I have I've had a solar company for 20 years, Sunsaver Solar Systems and Robert Simpson Electric. And I know from installing solar systems, it's very invasive. It's the most invasive thing we can do. It's with your distribution lines. It's with cutting down the trees. It's what Alan said about having not any more grass up there, no more pasture land. You're talking about a land that the water will fall on the land and run off that land and possibly create a problem. And I don't think there's not one neighbor up there, not one neighbor who wants you there. If there was one, if they raise their hand, I'd like to talk to them, but not one neighbor wants you there. What it is, it's a dead end road. And everyone on that road loves their peace, their quiet, their solitude, and they just want to farm. They want to have their meat cows. They want to farm, and they want to be left alone. And they don't want a solar system on their property. And you could say, well, that's not their property. You go right through it. It's everyone's property. It's farmland. It's a natural resource. And like you said yourself, it's prime pasture land. And Alan Ashman can attest to that. Everyone can attest that there is no better pasture land than what you're talking about, mowing down, digging up, and putting a solar field on. And it's a natural environment, and it's a natural environment for all the species, for the plants, for the animals, and for us. And when you put a 2 million watts of solar in, you're ruining that natural pasture land. You're ruining that natural environment. And I, for one, do not want it up there. I've done this for years, and I hate doing it. And the only reason I do it and put it on someone else's property is for the money. So I'd like to know where the money's going. Fred said he wants to help pay his taxes. He owns no more property up there. He sold off all his property up there. Every single acre of property he sold. So he doesn't need any money to pay his taxes up there. So I'd like to know where the money is going. Where is the money going? You said Fred's getting some. Who else is getting the money?
With all due respect, Mr. Simpson, I think we better put this in perspective. First of all, we would not be even talking about this location unless we had an agreement with Fred. All right, so he does own land up there. Second of all, your interest in this is, have you communicated your housing development concept with these people?
There's no
with your
housing
neighbors?
development concept up there.
You tried to get it
No one's gonna
permitted.
build anything up there. All they want up there is to raise cattle on there. That's it.
Oh, that's pretty
Period.
disingenuous.
You tell me about a housing development. Tell me
When
about a
did
housing
you apply
development.
in 2021 to the planning commission for a subdivision?
Yeah, for the Riverland, down on the river, not on the hill.
Okay, I just want to make sure we all know who's representing what interests here.
And Fred has signed away every single acre up there, except for the 20 acres that you're planning to put your solar field on. He signed away every single acre, except for your 20. So I'd like to know who
Who's
is
bought
getting
it
the
all?
benefit.
And I bought it all. That's why we know this.
Yeah,
Who is getting the benefit from this solar? Who? Fred, you?
Vermont
Norwich
Electric
Solar?
Co-op customers.
And the Vermont Electric
Ours
Co-op
getting shipped somewhere
customers.
else.
No,
Yeah,
With
then
two-
let's put it somewhere else.
Vermont Electric has expressed an interest in purchasing all the power that comes off of the array.
Let's find somewhere else to put it because we do not want you up there. Period. End of story.
I thought the grid couldn't handle all the power.
It can handle 2 megawatts. And that's why it was downsized to half.
That's with the big one that's going up on the meadow and the Weber's.
One that's in Lever's gravel pit.
Yes, it's on I believe it's on a different circuit. I can't,
How can it be? It's the same line that goes straight out 105.
What size, do you know what size the one on the meadows is? It's huge. I just saw it today when I went by.
I don't.
I think we have enough.
Found one? Isn't it a net meter? project?
It's part of it, yeah.
500 kilowatts. If it's a net metered project, it can't be any larger than 500 kilowatts, but I don't know the project.
Vermont Electric Co-op, they need roughly 7 megawatts every year to meet their requirements and their goals. So they're looking for projects like this one, Vermont Electric Co-op is, to meet those goals.
In their service
In
territory.
their, in their territory.
Fred owns other other properties around this area.
Yep.
And I don't know why he couldn't put it out on the head of the pond road, out where the Riggy place is. There's open fields out there.
Is that Willis Road?
No.
That's
another
Charles
property
too.
that-
Yeah, that we looked at and we can't do it there. It's the entire field's a wetland. Pretty much the entire field is a class 2 wetland.
There's some wetland up there on Basil Hill, right?
Yeah, they had.
It's
There's a lot of
class
wetland on
three.
Basil
Wet
Hill.
ribbons all over the place up
On
on the hill.
the northern
north-
corner,
north
it has a wetland that's all avoided. And so avoiding means no cutting. There's the perimeter, the delineation of the wetland itself, and then there's a 50-foot buffer on top of that, and none of that land can be touched. Cut, touched, nothing. So it is protected.
I want to go back to your runoff off of solar panels. Okay? And I know this from a personal experience, not just hearsay. I've seen it myself. The water will run off your solar panels and they will ditch a roll right where it drops, just like it would off on your house roof.
Yep.
And that's going to erode and wash.
And then dissipate into the grass around it.
But it also makes it look as if it made a little trench in that spot.
Yep.
So it does erode.
Yeah. I guess I would say that.
I just want to show this picture of, this is one of our arrays where you can see the grass is
Sir,
grown in.
I have a solar panel array up my house, so I know all about them.
Yep.
I have 40 of them, so you're not telling me a whole lot different than what I don't know.
There's a question over here.
Questions. When you're coming up Basil Hill, you pass the trailer. Where are you gonna start cutting the trees along the side of the road?
Around the corner, take the 90-degree turn, and then beyond just beyond that 90-degree turn.
On the right or the left?
As you're going up the road, on the left.
Where the power line's gonna go after that. You're gonna have to cut trees to get the
That must
power
be
lines
right-
in.
Right by our property line.
That is your road, go right across your field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
seen where you guys have subdivided that parcel off, so.
All the way. so all
Bucky
the
owns the
way
whole
to
right
top
side of the road
hill,
all the way up.
Those trees will be cut,
Uh,
correct?
Wait a minute, I missed your question.
So you said around the corner. So from there all the way to the top.
No, from the trailer, they're gonna cut trees all the way up, because they gotta have a
No,
clearance.
That's not true.
It is true, because they're gonna have clearance for their utility pole. They have a 50-foot right of way. So yes, it is true. From the other side of the trailer, they're gonna cut the trees all the way to the corner. How do you think they're gonna run the poles? Down the middle of the driveway?
Yeah.
We can't
have
put them
to.
in a wetland, okay?
You cannot put the poles in the middle of the driveway. You're gonna have to put them on the side of the road, and that's all wooded.
Well, and that's why I have a problem with is the poles, because if you put it on one side, you're gonna go over our barn. If you put it on the other side, you can be right in front of our home, our mobile home.
Yeah, I can't sit here and design the interconnection without Vermont Electric Co-op, okay?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would like to.
but
I
I'm
would
more
like to
than
go
happy,
with it, definitely.
absolutely,
I'd like to be involved,
Absolutely.
sure.
absolutely, and you would be as the landowner.
Well, this is the first I hear it, and Brian told me today. I didn't know there was a meeting today.
It's funny, all the paperwork that we have, Bucky.
I've never
is
got
not mentioned
anything.
On any
Okay.
paper, and neither is.
Right, so our requirement, and we called and confirmed the addresses. This is another question I have actually for the planning commission. There's a statement in there that says we did not notice properly the adjacent landowners. And
did
we
not.
have to, excuse me,
Well,
we
you're talking
have
about
to,
me, so you did not notify me.
we have to notice based upon the grand list at the time. And when we called and confirmed with the town clerk who the grand list of budding property owners, neither of you were listed. When you brought it to my attention, I immediately forwarded the 45-day notice to you. But as far as the town and the requirement with the Public Utility Commission, it's not recorded at the town.
Well, so I mean, I've owned, well, I disagree with that because I've owned the mobile home for 2.5 years and I own the other property for a year now,
Then you got to talk to the town clerk because it's not
but I
recorded.
get a tax bill.
Yeah. There is
Yeah.
the Myra, I can't remember her last name, at the little gray house, who also did not get notice, but I think there was a sale change, maybe in between the time that you got
Exactly.
your information, but also Roger and Catherine Mason up on the top of McCray Hill. They didn't get notice. They had a closing
What was that guy's name?
property.
Dan.
Dan Volante. Yeah, but I mean, so you notified Dan Volante, but not, Roger Mason, but maybe you should have followed up right before you actually.
Wait.
I mean, especially in the last couple of years, there's so many land transactions that went through.
Sounds like it. I don't know where the town clerk is in recording that. I mean, that's literally, that's what we have to do. Does anyone have questions about the solar project?
Yeah, why do you have to put it up there and not somewhere else?
I think there's some people in the room that would also like to ask a question. Mr. Simpson.
Earlier, you mentioned something about our biologists. So does your company in fact have its own equivalent to what the ANR would offer?
Great question. So we actually contract with a company called Arrowwood Environmental.
Okay,
And that's what they do. They do residential, commercial. They work for the utilities. They are hired to go out and assess environmental conditions.
okay.
They do wetlands, rare plants. They actually work with communities and do, in fact, I live in Waterbury and they're talking to our Conservation Commission. They're working with our Conservation Commission. So
Okay, so your company hires non-government sources to initiate the process.
to do the environmental site assessment,
And after that is done, it still needs to go through the state.
correct.
Okay.
And so they send their findings for the wetlands in particular, they send their findings to the wetland program
Yep.
and the Agency of Natural Resources biologist that services this area, the Northeast area,
Yep.
has to agree or make changes.
Make
So they typically do a site visit together. And they show them what they've found or not found, and then they agree whether they're class 2 or class 3 wetlands.
And in amongst that process, between this meeting, your hired people, and then the state is their public input, such as this. Are there findings that come out
Yeah.
that this group could see? And then it then goes to the state. Are we going to be privy to what those decisions are?
The Agency of Natural Resources will file comments on the application.
Yeah.
And then, so let's talk about the public utility process for a minute, because that's sort of where you're headed. The process is that there is a 45-day advance notice, no less than 45 days before a project can file an application to the Public Utility Commission for their consideration. That's what the letter is that went out back in May. Obviously, 45 days have gone by, but we did not want to do anything until we have to get all of our data finished. So the next step would be, once we have all of the studies back and the Arrowwood Environmental has to do an assessment, it will include large mammals, small species, rare plants, it'll include wetlands, it'll include shorelines, water resources. And And so when we have all of those studies, we would file the application to the Public Utility Commission. And all of the adjoiners and the regulators get notice and have 30 days to file comments on the full application.
Okay.
And so in that application will be this natural resource assessment. There'll be an aesthetic assessment, orderly development of the region assessment. There'll be erosion control. We have to demonstrate the erosion control plan, EPSC plan. The utilities will have to file whatever the studies are that the utilities to demonstrate that it can be connected electrically or reliably and stably.
Yep.
And forgetting stuff. We have to address the economic benefit to the state. We have to address the historic preservation. What else? That's basically the criteria. There's a long list of criteria.
So at this juncture, ANR is not involved yet.
Well, actually, the wetland ecologist, I think, has met with ours on site and confirmed.
Okay. You know the name of who that person is?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask me that. I think it's Shannon Morrison. I think it's Shannon. She works in this area. Yeah.
I bring all this up because I just finished a 6-year term on the Fish and Wildlife Board.
Oh,
And everybody sitting in this room sees fishing, wildlife, and the environment very close to their heart. And I think it's easy to say, looking around at everybody I know, that there's a lot of care about that. We raise our kids. I help them raise their kids. And there's a lifestyle that goes back to the cave at this point.
yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah.
And seeing kids who are raised in this way grow up to be good stewards who are going to show up at a meeting like this when they're 35 is important. That's part of historical heritage. That place up there is pretty special. In all likelihood, speaking basically from dirt time and farming, lynx probably crossed that property. There's been verification for the last 3 weeks of lynx in southern Vermont. They've already gone 50 miles coming north. And we know they're in Conti. That's a pretty special critter. I've been up on that hill and seen multiple bears and moose and deer and woodcock and geese in the course of sunrise to sunset. Bobcats, pictures on cameras, they're there. Yeah. That's
Yeah, we have cameras on our projects that show deer bedding down underneath the array. So-
How can I do that when I got a fence?
when they have a fence.
Well, that's what we would like to not have the fence, all right? Typically, the insurance company is the one that's been driving the fence in the last 3 years. But we would prefer, and ANR would prefer not to have a fence, quite frankly, and to your point, so that wildlife can move through it.
Yep.
The fence that is installed is 6 inches off the ground, so smaller critters can move through.
Yeah.
And it's prescribed as from Fish and Wildlife as a wildlife fence.
The other,
Is this gonna hurt, I'm sorry, Mike.
Nope.
Is this gonna hurt our property tax by having it up there?
The property taxes will help. I mean, the project will pay approximately,
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
How's it gonna help our property tax?
Oh, you're gonna
the
lose.
We're
project,
gonna lose the value.
We're gonna lose the value of our property.
I thought you said purple.
you
don't mean tax then, you mean value?
Yeah, the value of our-
Ain't gonna lower our tax.
I would need to appraisal to determine.
so the project, yeah, you would, but I think you'll find that the state of Vermont has legislated that the taxes will be the same for the land, and then the project itself will pay taxes to the town. It also pays taxes to the state general fund based upon generation. So it feeds both of those sources as well.
So can I speak again?
Annie? Yes, I'm sorry. I thought she was gonna say something. Yes,
I'm not-
I know. Because you understand. We're going back. Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a contract to buy that acreage that you're going to put your solar panels on if you do not put your panels on there. So I'll make a pledge right now, because I have a 10-year-old and Brian has young kids and everyone has kids in the area, that I will put that whole field from one end, the apple orchard, from one end of the dirt road to the all the way to Alan Ashman's field. I will put that in farmland preservation for the next 50 years. It won't be touched if you don't put your solar field there. And I don't know what that means to anyone in the room, but if that means that's additional leverage for you not to put your solar field there, I will pledge today that I'll put it in farmland preservation for the next 50 years.
Great.
The other thing, when you move all the apple trees out, you're taking all the feed from the animals.
Absolutely. You go up there right now and you walk, you can see from the road where the animals have been.
Yeah, I got them on my property. And they clean up. I don't even have to pick up an apple because they take them all. I hear you.
Yeah, so
Yep.
why would you want to take something like that out and take away food from the animals that are eating
Wildlife.
You're hurting the wildlife.
the deer? They, like I said.
The Agency of Natural Resources doesn't see it quite that way, that this impact of 20 acres is going to impact the wildlife negatively. I mean, I just don't expect that to be the case.
It
But-
definitely
I
will.
find that hard to believe. Well,
Okay.
So do I.
we gotta stare at those things when we wanna go to our property.
Right.
They can be right there the whole way up.
And you'll ruin the road. The whole thing will be ruined. But beautiful.
So that's what we're gonna have to
Because I
look
know
at when
what
you go
20
out.
acres is, it's because our field, where our house is, that's 20 acres.
Right, that's huge.
That's.
And I don't
huge.
wanna look at a whole field full of
I
solar panels every time I look out the window or come down off the hill to go to work or go back home in the afternoon from work.
And a fence isn't gonna fix it.
Yeah, your fence ain't gonna stop.
Wait, there's a disconnect there. The fence, we said that the vegetation along the road would remain on the northern side of the array.
You're still gonna see
So
it.
where's the, I don't understand how the
Fence, I
fence.
think.
Still gonna see
The
it.
outer perimeter is gonna be a fence. You're
Panel.
still gonna see
They're
it.
gonna take out that whole
Yep,
corner.
you're gonna see it. There's no doubt about it. I'm not gonna try to say that you won't
I
see it.
see it.
have you gone beyond the spot where you guys turn around? Have you gone around the
To
corner?
your house?
And over to the house on to the corner?
Yep.
How come you never stopped him to?
Mhm. Yeah.
You didn't think you needed to? Did you
No.
know somebody lived there year round?
Yes. I mean, in fact, I wondered who's plowing the road because it's a class 4 town road. But I live on a class 4 town road too, so I know the impact of it.
But it just, I'm
Yep.
really, really worried if you cut those trees, because there's times
Yeah.
where it blows in and it's hard to get off. And if he doesn't get home in time, I don't get back on. So.
Been there. I've hiked up half a mile.
It's gonna be gone. Because if they're gone,
They're not gone on the other side of the road, right?
No.
Okay.
but the left-hand
So but it
side,
drips from the side where the panels are.
it drifts really bad. Okay, I'm
And that's
done.
with trees there. Imagine with no trees there.
I have a question.
This lady's gonna say something too.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Francine.
Oh, Francine, okay. You can go next.
I just wanted to go back a little bit. Sorry, I was just trying to wait to jump in there. Back to what you were saying about the taxes, that our taxes on the property would stay the same. Is that correct?
Underlying land. Yeah.
Okay, so even though our property values may go down because there's a solar project adjacent to us, our taxes are going to stay the same. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I didn't say that.
Taxes on the
The
property.
property would stay the
With
same.
with the solar, right?
Okay, so
Noah has said that he would be contacting an assessor.
We have a townwide appraisal that's currently going on. That's the only way I would know. I don't know what the value of the grand list is without an appraisal, so that's why
All
we
right,
have
so,
one.
so you were just talking about the property in question where the field is going, not any adjacent property around that?
Right.
Okay.
I'm sure that'll lose value.
The property around. them,
Around
yes.
it, yeah. Right. Yeah.
I think Molly's next. What's the question?
Yeah, my name's Molly Cook. One of the questions I have is who benefits, I mean, besides a blanketed answer that the VEC benefits, we all benefit from electrical power. When an installation goes in any town, how does the town benefit from it? What's the direct benefit to a town when a landowner wants to put in a big array that contributes to the overall power grid?
The societal benefit, beyond the societal benefit.
No, I mean the town directly.
Yeah.
I don't mean society. I mean this town.
The tax,
This town benefit.
the primary benefit is the taxes. It also is feeding electrons into the local system. But I can't say that they're going to your house or your house or your house. But they're going to go to the substation nearby, which feeds up this town. But to answer specifically, to answer your question, the direct benefit is the taxes.
Which are greater because how a solar array is taxed.
Right, based upon the, Jeff, you're gonna have to help me here, based upon the formula that the Vermont Department of Taxes has established for solar generation, and it's based on the town tax rate. It looks to be approximately $13,000 a year.
So the current owner of the property would remain the owner with your company doing the solar installation on, so it's a lease agreement?
Yep.
And how long is the lease agreement?
It would be 25 years with a couple of options to extend, like 5 years, 10 years.
Right, so if at any time, worse, I mean, I think what people have begun to hear is that solar companies are going out of business. They are unable to sustain themselves. So when in a worst case scenario, not
good one,
saying that you guys are not in good financial shape, I don't know anything about you, but so your company does not do well and you are not able to meet your agreement for your array. You no longer have a job. You're not even there. So what happens to that array? Because I don't think you could be guaranteed that another solar company would take it over or that the Vermont Electrical Cooperative would take it over, because that's not what they're doing.
Right.
They're relying on a secondary service to do these installations. And
yep. So there's two things. One is there will be a financial investor that would own the system itself. And if they were to go belly up, as you say, or decide not to want to own it anymore, there would be a financial transaction there. As long as the system is generating electricity, so let's see, as long as the system is generating electricity, there is an economic benefit to keep it going. And there's revenue coming into the project, to the array, to the system owner, from Vermont Electric Co-op. So to be honest with you, the fact that Vermont Electric Co-op or a utility, if it were in Green Mountain Power territory, the fact that there is a power purchase agreement, an agreement for the long term to buy the power from the array, is a much more stable situation than us being around, for sure. That's one path. The second path is for, let's say for some reason, the array stopped producing. As part of the permitting process, the Public Utility Commission requires that a project of this size have a letter of credit established with the Public Utility Commission for the decommissioning of the project. So that at any time it does not produce, I think it's 65%, up to 65% of the array, but don't hold me on the percentage. I have to check that. And the array is not operating. First of all, there's going to be compliance with the power purchase agreement with VEC. But more importantly, I think there is a commitment with the Public Utility Commission, the state of Vermont, and they have this established letter of credit that is for the value to take the project out. And taking the project out means removing all the racking that has been put in the ground, remove the underground line that connects the rows of the panels to the transformer, remove the transformer from the area.
So what's the current life of those panels used in your arrays?
Basically 25 years. They
Under
can
warranty.
be, yep, they're under warranty and they can be swapped out as well.
So I've also heard that one of the biggest problems with solar arrays or wind for that matter, any power generating, is that, and I don't know the percentage or the equation that there is, but once the electricity leaves the site, leaves the panels, moves through the lines, it reduces considerably the farther it has to go. And because Vermont's grid is antiquated, it could mean that there could be power generated that would be dumped because it can't be used because it can't move through the grid to benefit anyone. And, you know, it seems this is not the same, but an analogy is like this big move for Vermont to be very green and to be number one in recycling and composting, but there's not the infrastructure to support it. That composting can't happen. Recycling, no one's buying the plastic that we're recycling. It's not getting sorted. It's going into landfills. So we can have all the ideas that we want, but if we don't have the structure to support the energy that's being produced by any solar array, any place, then a town actually gets harmed by that it's a hurry up and wait kind of situation, that the energy got put in, all the land got changed, the array got put in, and it can't be used because the grid can't handle it. And I don't know, I'm not versed well enough in any of this to know what happens to it, but I think it's a legitimate concern that you have to go way beyond Basil Hill to know how successful this project's going to be and whether or not BC can handle even this relatively small amount of power generation.
Great discussion. First. So as Jeff was saying earlier, this is VEC's responsibility. VEC is responsible for keeping our lights on, right? And they have power supply planners that look at where their power is coming from. They also have to look at the requirements that the state, right there, Vermont's utilities are regulated, unlike all others in New England. They're not regulated utilities, but VEC, GMP, Washington Electric, they're all regulated by the Public Utility Commission. They have to demonstrate, they have to put together IRP, integrated resource plan that shows what their projection is of the power that they'll need, when they'll need it, time of day, to your point, and then how they're going to get it and where it's going to come from, whether it's fossil fuels, whether it's out of state, whether it's wind, whatever their mix is going to be. And then they just, and so with that in mind, they have issued a request for proposals for solar throughout the state, or throughout their service territory, I should say. And then, so that's sort of the highest level. And as Jeff was saying before, they're looking at bringing on how many? Seven megawatts a year to meet the needs of their customers. And where was I going with this? This project would go into that. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
I'll add to that.
Okay.
Right now,
Lost
we
my
are,
train of thought.
Vermont's a net importer of electricity. So we're bringing in more electricity than we can generate in state. And so that means a lot of our electricity is coming from natural gas power plants in Massachusetts, in Connecticut, Rhode Island. So we're relying on fossil fuel generation that's not happening here in Vermont, but that we're using, right? So this project is helping to reduce our reliance on that fossil fuel generation and bring Vermont closer to being able to generate the electricity that we're using here in the state. So it's a great question.
Well, if it sounds like the consensus in townspeople here is that these are unpleasant to look at, to step aside from all the other impacts, that they're not nice to look at because of the restrictions that are required, like insurance requires fencing, which means that wildlife or livestock, it has to be managed in some other way than naturally, and that it's detrimental to habitat instead of improving. So is there a way, and I'm probably stepping on a number of toes, but as a planning commission that towns can say, we're going to designate this particular area of town as, sort of as pristine as it can be since we all arrived on this continent, and that we need to look at a place like the outside of town property or a gravel pit or places that don't immediately have a whole lot going for them as they stand. Because when you take a beautiful place and you change it with solar and it lasts for 25, 50 years, well beyond all of us, then what are we, I know that, hey, I use power, I don't have solar panels on my house. I'm relying on power from another source. So I don't have a place to speak, but I do feel like towns need to be more active in how they allow designations of projects. In terms, if we're busy in this town talking about, what's considered a beautification of Island Pond and what's dilapidated and what's pretty to look at, the same argument holds true when this looks like industry to a place that's currently wild.
And we do. We have zoning regulations. You can see our map right there. You can see the dark green spots are associated.
Sure, but that's not what's happening on Basil Hill.
Yeah, so why don't you respect that?
Right, but you have to understand that the town does not control projects like this. This is a section 248 project. The PUC hears the case and makes the decision. This is not a town decision. But I have a question. You guys have not applied yet, right?
Correct.
So an application hasn't really been submitted, and once one is submitted, there will be a public hearing, correct?
Probably, I would expect so.
Right, and that's really the place where this discussion can be pursued further. What exactly are you asking the planning commission to do tonight?
We're asking to answer questions. We're here to provide information, to hear these concerns. The concerns that we've heard, I've taken a few notes here, have to be addressed in the application. And so, we do definitely have work cut out for us. I think that a conversation with you, for example, in terms of understanding your new ownership and how VEC would look at that, we have to address that, for example. We haven't finished all the studies, and VEC is the big one in the room so far. So you're absolutely right. Yep.
Who is the owner of this system?
I don't know who will be the ultimate owner at the moment. I don't have that information. Vermont, or Norwich Technologies is currently the managing member of Brighton Basil Hill Solar LLC.
All you do is build it then.
No, we would operate it. We're a vertically integrated company, so we want to design, we want to build, we want to operate and maintain it. And so when we get, the ultimate system owner would have a contract with Norwich Technologies for the installation and then for the operation and maintenance of it.
And how do you maintain them in the wintertime to keep the snow off of them?
We don't. We also have snow, although we have Snow Shedder, which is we have a research and development arm that has designed what's called Snow Shedder. And it's basically, the lips between your panels, upper panel and the lower panel. It helps to shed that snow off of a panel.
Yeah.
But we're not in there sweeping them off or usually the heat of the sun, eventually after the storms, they come out.
Because they don't produce it all in the wintertime.
No, I know. I have a sizable project at my house, and my summertime generation, actually my fall time generation, pays for my winter usage.
And I will say one other thing, if you don't keep the snow on the bottom edge of them, the snow will not come off of them.
So absolutely. And so the panels would be installed approximately 3 feet off the ground and then extend up from there.
And then the snow will build up 3 feet very quickly and it will not slide
I
off.
hope we get that much snow.
It don't take a lot.
Yeah, it's snow year.
I've had mine for about 4 years. I use a tractor with a bucket to clean out under them, so
Oh my gosh.
I can keep the snow sliding off of them.
Yeah.
So just for everyone's information, solar panels that turn the sun's rays into electricity are between 15 and 20% efficient. Just a little fact.
I don't even think they're that much.
I don't either.
I was gonna say about 7.5.
Well, I would say about 12 to maybe 15.
And nobody likes coal anymore, right? Except for the people producing coal, but coal is twice as efficient as a solar panel.
Right, well, let's understand what we're talking about with efficiency, because I would like to do wind, because the wind blows all the time. But
That's
solar
1200%
is, excuse me, can I finish?
1200%. Well, I was talking 1200% is wind. 12 was comparing it to solar. I'm done.
1200% is wind. 1200%. No. The efficiency that Mr. Simpson is talking about, it reflects the fact that, nighttime, it's dark now. Obviously not going to be generating at night. And so then the cloud, even if you were to say 50%, you're starting at 50% because it's not going to be generating at night. And then the additional reduction is typically weather, clouds, storms, snow. Know what you're saying? Yeah. So it is, that's a fact, for sure.
Are we all set? Any
I
other
just
questions?
have one last thing here. If you get the message from the planning board, the select board, and us people that we really just don't want this project there, will you just go away? I mean, really, seriously, can't you find a different place?
Yeah,
I mean, what's the purpose of these meetings if we don't have?
The purpose of the meeting is to hear these concerns and to see if we can address them.
Looking good. Yeah.
If you can't, you're still gonna do
It's fine.
it.
I can't answer that. That's not my decision.
More VECs, right?
Huh?
VECs.
It would be a conversation with VEC and my bosses and the landowner. I think one of the key takeaways for me today is to talk to Bucky.
Now, do you folks do anything financially for the landowners around it?
Excuse me?
Do you do anything financially for the landowners around the solar array?
Okay, I think we're had a long discussion on this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Jeff.
So for this, when would we see, or PUC can come into a meeting so we can have this conversation? Or is the next meeting proposed?
I gotta hear from them. We gotta get this study back. You know, I mean, they could say it's gonna cost you $5 million to upgrade the line to get there. And then we would say, well, that's not viable. So that would kill the project. So until we have their study work done, I really can't.
I mean,
I can't really say.
Did they just start?
They've had it for a while. Well, they've had it. We've gone through an iteration where they told us that 5 megawatts would not be viable. So
And when they're done their study, do we get access to?
that will be in the, if we were to move forward, it would be in the application. That study is in the application. Yeah, for sure.
So we'll all get everything in the mail?
Yeah. Wait,
Would
there's
the
a
abutter be
notice,
notified?
it's a notification that happens that says it's publicly available, or it's available at the Public Utility Commission. But we can send it to you hard copy. It's usually a filing about that thick.
Got pictures.
And how long will,
Yeah, I will have pictures.
how long will it be before you actually start the project? Once
Oh
you're-
my God,
Goodness.
that's, the Public Utility Commission doesn't have a timeline, so it could go on. I don't even want to tell you this, but I've got one project in the state that's been at the Public Utility Commission since 2021. So some go through fast, some go through slow. It's a hearing officer kind of a thing. It's if you
So
get.
you don't know when it would start producing electricity then?
That's right. That's right. I think the other thing to keep in mind is like Jeff has mentioned, BEC has put out this request for proposals for projects. And if there couldn't be a meeting of the minds on what they would pay for the power, for example, the project could not be viable. And all those economic elements have to come into play, what the requirements are that the PUC, the Public Utility Commission, puts on the project. They'll have typically, 10 different requirements for how it's installed, how it's decommissioned, how the prime ag soils are dealt with, if there's any wildlife considerations, if there's they're all over the board. Every project's different.
Okay, we're gonna have to end this, because we have a lot more to do, but thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We'll be back.
Yeah.
You guys stay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Is there anything you want to table that you're going over?
Oh, yes.
But.
Better get a notice in the mail.
Other business.
I mean, we.
So I just talked to Fred Raphael, and he says he has no idea where she got the information that Fred's gonna get money for having the solar field on his property.
Okay, well, we're moving on. It's
Yeah.
time to move on.
Yeah. As far as like.
Have a good night. Sorry.
We got everything ready for it.
Okay.
And then we can do the amendments here, the
Yeah.
bylaw review. I think there's a small update, so there's no other.
Well, you know what I mean, like a meeting.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Well, no, I don't care about that. No, but they had to address the planning board and the select board, and that's why we ended up here. That's how. It's weird.
Just have like I don't.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, we're gonna go to the zoning administrator report.
Let me see, not too much activity here as we're winding down so I'll be quick. There was an issue with a person on a permit up on Newark Road that was building a garage, and he did file a permit, but he didn't put the setbacks in. So I talked to him and he was like, when I come up, but he only comes up on the weekend, so. But he did pay for it and get the permit. I just need to get it.
So he's met the setbacks.
I don't know. He didn't put the setbacks on the permit.
But has he already started building?
Yeah, I do believe so.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
you didn't go measure.
Well, I could.
No, I'm just,
And then just a couple other, on Route 114, some people are gonna do a small cabin off grid. And up in, on 105, someone's putting a shed. Cause I know we're not supposed to do names. So that's it. And then I just got one for, a subdivision on Blueberry Lane. They already own both places.
You can't say names.
I can't say names anymore.
Why can't you? Because it's the public notice when we put them up on the board.
I haven't done the permit yet.
Yeah.
So
It just applied.
they just applied.
Okay,
So I have it right here in my hand.
okay, yeah.
But they own both lots. They're just restructuring making the lot line straighter is what's happening. It's not.
Oh, they're not building or anything?
No. There's already two places, two different lots. They're just restructuring the line because when it was subdivided before and I have the subdivision, it was really wonky. And so they just want a nice straight line and the son eventually is going to buy one of the lots from the mom. Okay, so that's it. And then I did the whatever Joel sent along the way,
Survey.
the survey, I did that, that's completed. So I sent that, it's all about, how many, single or multi-unit houses have been, each month. And we don't, it's interesting when I did that survey, each month you just put like how many, we don't really do many houses per se in a year.
Garages.
It's basically just additions and garages. and sheds. It was just an interesting, as you're really looking at it, I was like, maybe, I mean, I don't know what the data is, but maybe 4 or 5 houses out of the year and out of the 30.
That's more than I thought.
Yeah, maybe 4 this year. I don't know. I'd have to don't quote me on that, but out of the 33 permits, I mean, maybe 3 or so. And then was there something else? No, maybe
Four's
that's
good,
it.
Beth. 4's good.
It might be 4. I said, don't quote me. It might be 3.
Yeah.
I'm considering that I didn't consider the small off-grid cabin. But, in today's day and age, it's all about the tiny homes, isn't it? They're not living here full time, but, and then I just, I have, the new tax map guy just sent me an email today. There was some confusion about a couple parcels about names and stuff. So I was going to talk to Teresa because I have no idea. And that's my excitement right now.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Are they updating the online map? Because it's kind of a mess today. When I tried to look up a couple different things on it
Yeah.
today, there's a lot of stuff not showing up. There's, you can't see who owns properties.
Yeah, even in this meeting, I was looking to see who owned on Basil Hill and it was like, no information.
Right. It's like some bizarre,
Yeah.
Polygon.
Polygon, the Polygon people.
Polygon owns everything.
When you discover a fault in the map like that, let them know.
Okay.
Let us know or something. Let me
Send
know.
it to me and I'll address it with them.
I was just wondering if they were doing some updates, sometimes when you're
We're doing-
updating, it makes it wonky.
As we do this appraisal, we're gonna start updating a lot of things.
Yeah.
in the System. And just to let you guys know and everybody here knows, well, I did speak to them today and they indicated they are taking photos of each and
Oh,
every
good.
property, even when they're yelled at. So we're all set.
Oh, okay. That's it. That's my excitement for y'all.
Okay.
That's that fast.
That's good. So we're gonna go to approve minutes, previous meeting. Gonna do that, right?
I will make a motion
Can I just see this? I
Yes.
didn't read the last one.
It's like stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
I wish.
to approve the minutes of September 16th.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I
And, so,
Oh, I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
Well,
Hang on just a minute.
Are we skipping the
Yes.
The zoning repeal question?
Yes. Oh, was there a question?
Well,
No, we have I sent you guys a draft.
Yeah, I read it, Mike. I did read it and.
They tabled it.
Okay.
We've been here long enough.
I have just one question I want to ask.
Okay.
You got a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. How do we treat a person that's a classic car collector? And they have cars in their yard that are classics? How do we treat them?
Like you would treat any person with a car. If it's registered and operable, it's fine.
Because you can register.
My dad has classic cars.
I understand
This
he
is
does.
registered and operable.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you would treat
But
them.
how about a guy that's building his classic cars up so they're not operable, they're not, but they're worth $10,000?
I would
You're
think
gonna tell him
that
to
if
take
you,
them to a junkyard?
I would think if you had a $10,000 classic car that you were rebuilding, you would have it in your garage. My uncle rebuilds lots of things and they're in his garage, right? You wouldn't leave it to the elements.
Some people do, some people don't.
Well, unfortunately, our zoning bylaws state very clearly that you are allowed one. I've been down this road a lot.
I know, I
Of the past,
know, and that's
I mean,
why I'm asking that question.
You know, I would think that as somebody who's spending $10,000 and then putting in all that money, my dad rebuilds cars, it would be locked up tight in a garage, especially in the wintertime. Why would you leave that out to get rusty? Especially in a classic situation. My dad's got a 53 Studebaker. Do you see that on the road? Heck no. He doesn't even drive it in the rain. So I'm just saying.
I understand
Coming from a family who rebuilds classic cars, there would be no way that any car would be left outside. So I find that question, like, if anybody's trying to argue that, I would say that it's like not even the moot point, because you would have that in your garage to rebuild.
Yeah.
You would, and everybody knows that.
Depends on how much money you got
Well,
and how much you care. You'd like a classic car.
well, if you like it that much, you better put it undercover.
You know?
I mean, it's different. You're working on your car outside. That's very different. But somebody who's a car enthusiast would not.
Right.
But
And this
a
is,
classic
and this is
car.
people using this as an excuse because they probably had.
No,
this
no, I'm
car.
not even saying.
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if it even exists, but what I'm saying
No,
is.
it doesn't exist.
It doesn't, okay, all right.
We would just say, put it in your garage where it belongs.
That's right. Yeah. Because, I mean, there's a lot of these cars that people have or had in their yards that are probably over 20 years old, but they're junk. I mean, they're rusty old things and you can't call it a classic at that point.
No,
I feel like I'm a classic sometimes.
But I had one person used to do classic cars for myself, and I never had a garage, so I had to leave them outside.
Okay, can we?
So, to come back
Yes.
to the question of the letter, when do you plan, I heard
Oh, the
Noah say
letter.
you've tabled that, but
Oh, yeah.
I would bring to your attention that the law says that you shall promptly proceed in accordance with subsections. So when do you plan
Okay,
on?
let's do it now.
All right,
Let's do it now.
we'll do it now then.
Because your next meeting would be November 4th, and you have to warn, you also have to
No,
warn.
the
a
next
public
meeting is
hearing.
October 21st.
No, we only have 2 a month.
There- But the next meeting.
They've already
within-
had
you have
one.
to- You have to warn the meeting within 15 days. You have to give people 15 days notice. You have to get it in the paper, so you have to allow maybe 5 days to get it. in the
Right, but we
paper.
don't have a timeline where we have to have this done in a month or something. I mean, it's,
But
it took the other town a year.
I wouldn't, there's some nasty shit going around.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
On the
My language.
board.
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
boy.
and I-
We're all
I-
getting
I-
fired.
There's no reason
Damn.
why you can't quickly approve this letter so you can, and
Yeah.
warn a
Where
public
that-
hearing
where
for
that mic
November
at?
4th tonight. Is what I would suggest you do.
November 4th.
November 4th, the day before the election?
That would be your first opportunity. It would be your normal meeting. Are you going to cancel your meeting on November 4th?
It's up to you
Well,
guys.
The day of the voting? Or is that the day before?
Before.
Oh, the day before.
I won't be here, so you guys do what you're gonna do.
I don't, so why are we gonna keep it till then, just so that we can do the
No, you
vote?
could do it, you could do it before, but you know, and actually, you know, promptly, it seems to imply that you probably should do it before, but I thought if you were meeting November 4th, that would be promptly enough, I believe. But if you don't want to meet then I'd suggest you do it earlier.
Next meeting, or do you want to do it now? Because Mike, didn't you put in your email, you had kind of like the letter that you thought that would be what we would want to say?
Yes,
The very
yes, that's what I sent you today to look
Yeah,
over
the
and see
very
if
last
that's
paragraph.
that's the report. We just have to get it sent out because it has to go to, we couldn't do it at the next meeting because that's only 14 days. It's not enough time. We would have had to have warned it yesterday.
No, the
So
public
it has
hearing,
to
you
be
can't.
November 4th.
No, you can't, you're right. The public hearing, the earliest date would be 20 days. The earliest date that I would suggest would be 20 days from now. Even though it says 15, you need lead time to get it in the paper and to write the notice to get in the paper.
And it has to be sent out to all the neighboring towns and
Right.
NVDA and the
But
state.
that
and
doesn't have a time. That doesn't have a time.
That does. They have the same 15 days. That's their time to
Okay.
make their recommendations if they want to make it.
I guess I'm just saying the sooner we deal with this, the
Okay.
better.
November 4th, sounds good. All right, let's do it.
Approve the letter.
So on the 21st, we're doing the letter, or what, are we doing the letter now and having that all set?
Can't you approve the letter tonight?
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Let's
She was
do
just
that.
asking.
Yeah.
Did you guys all look at it? You were okay with it?
I did not see it. What time, when did you send it?
It was
This
later this
morning.
afternoon. I didn't get it till 3. Yeah, I didn't get it till 3.
Oh, I was home by then, okay.
And I would have.
I didn't see it either,
Printed having it.
because I ain't been
Here,
home.
I'm gonna,
Here, you want me to try and text that?
Oh,
I mean, you could
can.
do you could table
Oh.
this to your next meeting, I guess, you know, without,
No, let's do this.
No.
We can get it done now.
Let's do it. We got
Let's
nasty
do it.
things going on.
Yeah. So actually, what are we doing? Are we just writing this kind of a letter thing like this to be?
yes,
And
it's supposed to be our report as to, you know, our recommendation and with our why we are recommending this in zone that we do not abolish zone. And so this is, you know, the first paragraph kind of states the legislative reasons for zoning and how our town plan kind of requires zoning, or we're not going to be able to meet the requirements of our town plan.
Right, that's what I got out of that too.
so
Very well
so you just
written.
need a motion to approve this document as the written report as required in section 4441.
Okay, so I'll make a motion. Trying to read what it says.
Oh, was it too small? Hold on, I might be able to make it
Because
bigger.
I got my reading glasses and then I don't have my other ones.
You see, I can see it. It looks big to me.
Yep.
Better.
All right, so I'll make the motion to accept the report on proposal of repeal of zoning bylaws.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now read it after.
Now you need to warn the public hearing.
And that's gonna be November 4th,
Well, that
or
was.
is it October 21st?
Well,
Can't be October 21st.
We don't have
Can't
enough
do that.
days.
Oh, okay, so November,
November 4th. Which is a Monday, first
You could
Monday.
Well, you could do, wait a minute, sorry.
or we can do it after
Could do the 4th or the 18th.
of November.
Yeah, that's the 2 day. That's the 2 planning commission meetings.
I'd shoot for the 18th to give us plenty of time to properly warn it. That's just my opinion, but what do you guys think? Since it has to go to those.
Well, so all the other towns have time and.
Yeah, NVDA has to look at it. Other towns have to look at it.
We can go ahead and put the warning out, just warn it for the 18th, but go ahead and send everything out so people have you know, more than 15 days to respond.
Right.
Yep.
If you were good, you could do it the 28th of October. That's enough time, isn't it?
We don't have a meeting then.
No, but you could have a special meeting.
Special
then.
meeting.
Oh, okay.
I can't because I have another meeting that day.
Okay, so the 18th would be fine.
Of
Okay.
November, yeah.
November. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we have the public meeting on November 8th, on that, our planning board meeting on.
Public
November
hearing.
18th. Public hearing, I'm
I was
sorry.
just telling Noah when
On
he's typing it
November.
up. It's public hearing.
Yeah,
So this is the public hearing that the people are invited to come and talk.
yeah, I'll.
about.
Right,
people-
right.
well,
That's the public part.
Kathy will be here,
Yeah, okay.
November 18th.
Do I have a second?
Do we need?
I'll second it.
All in
It's
favor?
gonna be at the same.
Aye.
time. All right, now we'll be back.
At 5:30, right? Meeting's at 5:30.
Yes.
Okay.
Same time.
Same place. Love this, love this chair.
Same.
Now,
So
would we want to do it down in the gym instead of up here because maybe not knowing how many people would come?
We'll see.
Oh, it's gonna get ugly.
Well,
Just
Yeah,
order
well,
for-
that would-
hold up, I
Just
gotta
order
get
for
one
the
group
town
out of the
office.
gym before we get.
Yeah,
anybody
okay,
else
yeah,
in
we'll,
the
yeah,
gym.
we can figure that out later.
So
Right.
it's, you're gonna have to advertise this in the paper and put your, okay, no, you got it. All right,
Yeah, I'll reach out to you guys tomorrow to follow up.
okay, all right.
Thank you guys.
I'm good at what he does.
Oh,
Right.
you guys want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make. a
Yes.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay,
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
thank you.
Adjourn. We're adjourned.
Fine one.
You know, I just feel like that people that are on